West African manatee live is difficult but possible. The moment you get it either in a net or your attention is drawn that there is a manatee here, your first job is to do the morphometric measurements. And then the other one is the cranial. This is more common because very often you will find out that they have the bones. The bones are there after hunting and eating the animals. If you visit your local hunters, you are likely to get the bones. More importantly, the head bones. I've told you that very often they keep this as prowess, sign of power. So if you talk to the local people, you will get the bones. You will get the skull. So when you get the skull, there are certain measurements we expect. So we are going to introduce you to some of these measurements here in this session. Morphology. How does it look like? I've already indicated that the manatee has unique characteristics because of its vegetative lifestyle. It eats plants. So its morphology is somehow related to its vegetative lifestyle. Some of these are prehensile lips. I've mentioned this before. It can push out the lips and draw. Push out and draw. Push the lips out and draw. Prehensile lips. And that helps in feeding. That helps in feeding. It's also got dexterous forelimbs. The forelimbs can be moved. Can be moved. You could see in my picture that they were standing on the forelimbs. That also helps in feeding, isn't it? Helps. Dexterous limbs. It's also got horny plates inside the mouth. The mouth has horny plates to help in chewing. It has also got a complex gastrointestinal tract. When you open up the animal, it's got very complex gastrointestinal tract. We'll look at some of this. I've mentioned that because of the weeds that they feed, the molars are replaced throughout life. The teeth, they are replaced throughout life. That's also an important feature. I've also mentioned that they are slow, shallow swimmers because they have slow metabolism, low metabolism. So they are slow moving, shallow moving animals. They are insulated by blubber, fat. If you want to catch manatee, you pass through a lot of fat. In the West African manatee, the fat at the back is thicker than the one in the front here. So if you want to drill a hole, cut the manatee from the back, you have to cut a little deeper with fat. About 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters deep, the back of fat. The front is about 1 centimeter deep of fat. It's also a measurement. You need to measure the fatness. The fatness measure is a measure of the health. It's a measure of the health of the animal. Clear? If it is very fatty, it means it's doing very well. So if you measure the thickness of the fat and it is thin, then you know your animals are emaciating. They're getting thinner. So we also measure the fat, the blubber. They have poor adult brain. The brain is not very good. We'll look at that. Manatee don't have good brain. So I don't know whether they will be very intelligent compared to cetacean, creoles, and so on. I think they will be very dull animals. Yeah, they may not be very brainy people. They have very poorly developed brain. They have elongated lungs. The lungs are elongated horizontally because of the way they are. Elongated lungs extended throughout their backs. And there is a diaphragm that separates the lungs from the intestines. The lungs, diaphragm, intestines. So they have horizontally placed diaphragms. Please note that, very important. It is different from ours, where the diaphragm clearly divides the abdomen from the thoracic cavity. Theirs is a sheet, horizontally placed diaphragm. Manatees have only 6 cervical vertebrae here. We also look at that. The bones of the neck are only 6. So they are not able to turn their heads so easily as we do. These are general adaptations. Now the picture here shows you the prehensile lips. I've told you that the lips very prehensile. This is, you push the lips up like that. Note the valves in the here. It can close these nostrils with the valves. It can open it when it comes to the surface. Occasionally it comes to the water surface and open the valve to breathe. And then goes under, it closes the valve. Closed valves here. The lips are prehensile. I can draw this back. This is a general West African manatee. It's a picture I took after they killed the animal. And I told you that there is already market. From here it goes to market. Within a short test time it's sold. Here, note the nostrils. The lip has been drawn in. Very small eyes. Flippers here and that. Very long one for females. Within these arms, axillary, if it's a female, you have the breast. You have the teeth of the breast. So look for the teeth of the breast down there. Raise them in the axilla. Then you will see whether it's a male or female. There are other differences that can let you know the sex. I've mentioned that it's similar to T. manatus. We know this, we have this knowledge already. First paragraph is clear, we discussed that. No external ear, eyes are small. I've talked about the rostral reflection. Rostral reflection. The rostrum and the reflection. Rostral reflection. Now because the West African manatee eats more on the top, so the reflection is not very acute as those that eat in the bottom. So rostral reflection, T. senegalensis, is about that degrees. About 25.8 degrees. Whereas that of Ilungis, 30. So bigger reflection. Whereas Manatus, even greater. Rostral reflection, because they feed more in the bottom. You tend to remain in the bottom. So there are rostral reflection differences. There's deflection differences in the rostrum for the West African manatee and the others. The ribs number, the ribs vary. The ribs, 17 to 18 pairs. Look at some of these on the ribs. But more importantly, is a swollen, oily, zygomatic arc. When we look at the skull, you see. For the manatee, West African manatee, the zygomatic arc is very huge and oily. It's another difference from the other manatees. Data on morphometrics. This is the general view about the morphometrics. Now, so the length of the animal has been measured for some time. I told you that on the average is about, on the average the Manatee is about how many meters? I've mentioned it before.
3.
About 3 meters. Okay. I told you on the average it's 3 meters. Okay, look at data. Data collected from Senegal, Joa. And is it a river?
No.
In the center of Senegal.
It's on the...
Okay, this is where they measured it by this author. He measured male as 1.4 and 2.4, again in the same place, just to give you some data that have been gathered in terms of the morphometrics. Sierra Leone, this is the source, 2.43 meters. Senegal, this place, Ndar, Guel and Ndar. Okay, 4 meters, wonderful, record. So that is holding the record of longest Manatee measured is that place. Measured 1978 in that place, 4 meters. La Côte d'Ivoire, 2.77, 2.61, Powell, Diop, Senegal River, 1.93, Gambia, we have 1.58 here, and of course myself in Bota, Ghana, I've measured 2.64. In other words, we want you to measure the length. The length, we'll show you how to measure the morphometric. Record so far is 4 meters. If you take the average is about 3 meters. We need more data. This is not enough. This is the sense of the database. Measure from your place and let's put all together so that we can really clarify this issue. We need data on the length of your animal. And this will all be sent to the common database. Okay. How do I measure? How do I go about measuring? These are the steps. The first one is from here, the snout. Put it flat on the ground. We'll show you when we go to the field. We'll be doing this on the field somehow. But from the snout here to the end here, using a tape. Tell us the total length. That is number 1. Number 2, measure from, there are 3 holes here. Note carefully. The hole, look for the hole in the ventral surface. The first hole here, close to the tail. The first hole you look for, which is close to the tail, is the anus. Is the anus. The next one, closest to the anus, is the urinogenital for the female. If it is a female, it will be very close to this one. That should also help you to know the sex. So you have 3 ways of knowing the sex. Here, check the armpit, the axilla for the teeth. Check for position of urinogenital. If it is a female, it is very close to the anus. If it is a male, it's far away here. Further away. That is a male. That is a female. Relative position of the urinogenital to the anus to help you know the sex. We are also interested in the second measurement, distance from the snout to the urinogenital, to the anus. To be measured. I've mentioned this as the female one. This is the male one. Measure this distance as well. Measure also this one here, umbilicus. The umbilical cord. It's a male. It's got the umbilicus here. Look for it as well. We are also interested in this distance from the snout to the umbilical length here. So these are measured horizontally with a tape. So this measurement 1 to 4, measure with a tape. Measure also the fluke length here, from the base of the fluke to this place, measure. These are all morphometric measurements. Then we need to measure the girth, the cylinder, the girth. So you need to wind the tape around here, the base here. So this is a cylinder. The girth length here at the anal base, the girth length at the anus, the girth length at the umbilicus, the girth length at the axilla. Why do we measure this one? Why do we think we measure the girth? How fat it is. How fat it is. You give indication of how fat your animal is. So yes, we measure those. These are all called morphometric measurements. And we need all those measurements. I've also mentioned the skin blubber, thickness, the back. You have to cut a piece and know the back. We're also interested in the thickness of the skin. We take all these measurements as well. If the animal is dead, very often it's dead or it's rotten, and you may not like this situation, then you are able to see the bones. Okay? If it is dead, and I have no way of knowing the sex, there is a way you can know the sex. Looking at this bone here. Look for this bone. The vestigial pelvic bone here. Look for those bones. Now, in the case of males, depending on the length, total body length, the males have this shape, whereas that of the female have this shape, this bone here. This bone here. So this is going to guide you if you see it. The vestigial pelvic bone here can also guide you to know the sex, where you are dealing with bones, if it's available. I've mentioned the complex urinogenic, the complex abdominal system. Here, you will see there is the horizontal lung here, separated by the horizontal diaphragm here. Horizontal lung here, separated by the diaphragm. Horizontal. It's different from ours, which is vertical. So this is horizontal, and then below that you have the alimentary canal. Okay, that's the pattern in terms of the internal organs. I've looked at this one in terms of the bones. I mentioned that we have 6 cervical, 17 to 19 thoracic bones. These are dealing with the bones. Normally, these are those that you meet, and they are in the villages. You have some bones there. I mentioned manatees have poor vision. I mentioned it before because you don't need any elaborate eyes when you are underwater. They are good at hearing. Tactile touch, they are very good. Taste, not known. And probably they have no ability to smell, according to literature. Those are the sensory system, in terms of the senses. Poor brain. Poor manatee brain. Not very good brain. One characteristic of the manatee bone is that it is very heavy. Big, heavy. When you take a manatee bone, it's very heavy. And you believe that the density, the high density, helps to regulate buoyancy in shallow waters. And the bones are relatively brittle. They can break easily. So when a manatee has a fracture, it can heal, but it can break easily. I've discussed this one, the rostral reflection. This one is very curved. This one here, horizontal, compared to this one here. Rostral reflection here, horizontal, 28, about 38 in the case of, because they fit more in the bottom. There are differences in the rostral reflection. The teeth, I mentioned that the teeth are replaceable. You see these ones are new ones coming up. You are likely to get this thing from the villages, no doubt about it. These ones are older than these ones, so they are being lost this week as the animal grows and replaced from behind throughout life. Now, one important thing about the skull is this ear bone. There's a bone here, one here, one here. Is the ear bone. Very important for aging. If you want to know the age of the manatee, we need the ear bone. So bringing out the ear bone is very important. Look for the ear bone. Once the ear bone is removed from here, this is the ear bone. We cut a section. The thick section is cut from this section of the ear bone, and this is the section. From this section, we are able to read growth rings here, and we are able to age the animal. So aging of the manatee can be obtained from the ear bone. So remove the ear bones as well, very important. Now with that at the background, we go to the practicals to measure. You need to measure the various lengths that I told you. You need to look at the ear bone, remove it. How do I go about it? You need some equipment. You need bore calipers. Fortunately, I've got some of these here. You have them here? Yeah, please. Kindly. Yeah, this is a bore caliper. We'll be using it. We'll be trying to use this. Vernier caliper. You have vernier? Vernier caliper. Need that? Vernier caliper. Need this as well. Some of them are dialed, digital. You just put it and it reads. That one too is there. I'll show it to you. You have to know the moment. Dial calipers for vernier. These are less expensive. These ones are cheaper than the digital. So if your project, you have big money for your project, then buy digital. It's easier and faster. We also have what we call the goniometer. You have that as well? Oh, okay, I've got one. I'll show you later. You need a tape, measuring tape. Yes? Sorry. Okay. So these are some simple equipment that you need. Some simple equipment you need to be able to make measurements of the crane. We'll be trying out some scores. I believe we have some scores here. Okay, can you show it now? For them to see a score, Manatee score. We'll try out to measure it.
Yes.
West Africa. Wow, wonderful. Okay, then my work becomes very easy. Yeah, wow. This is the oily zygomatic arc I told you about. Looks oily, zygomatic arc. The others don't have it. This is the West African manatee. The oily, thick zygomatic arc. So the jaw is a bit out, like that, compared with this, which is narrow. So the oily zygomatic arc here. I mentioned the rostrum. The rostrum is not, it's almost straight. It's not very deflected. About 28 deflection. Whereas this it goes down. So there's difference in the rostral deflection. Ours is almost straight because it fits almost at the top. But theirs is at the bottom. So it's by evolution, the rostral reflection is acute. Very more curved. Okay. Then I mentioned this one here. The teeth. This one has more because of the size. So the teeth are replaced. They wear out. They usually pull out. They wear out as the animal grows. New ones are formed behind. New ones are formed behind. There. Okay. We will be discussing more of this. So we'll be taking some measurements. Now, so we look at the diagnostic features of the skull. So the term skull, certain people think that the skull just means the top. And then the mandible, the jaw. We have the skull, mandible. Skull and the mandible. The lower jaw and the upper jaw. But for our work here, we consider all as skull. For ease. Depends on you. The word skull here refers to all. The entire head skeleton. The entire head skeleton. We will not distinguish between lower. Now, the entire head skeleton. The lower jaw is sometimes called the mandible. Okay? And it consists of the dentaries. You can see the dentaries. Two bones. The skull acts as a plate for attachment of skin, for chewing and for movement. So the nature of the head, as you see, the skull is very, very different from how in nature the whole head looks like. Because so many meat and fat will be attached to them, so many things before you come out with the head. So the real nature of the head cannot be seen just from the skull. Because we have removed the meat and all those things. I've mentioned the dentition, characteristic feature of the skull, the dentition. Feeding includes swallowing, it chews, and then swallows. We will look at the main data sheet. Some data sheet has been designed in order to collect this information. And we'll be looking at some of the data sheet. I'm sure you have been given that one. You have this. Do you have this data sheet? You have it. Please refer to this data sheet now. Refer to this data sheet. This is the data sheet for collecting information on the cranial. See whether you have this data sheet. Are you okay? Everybody has found this sheet? Any problem? This is the kind of sheet. It's a kind of sheet. We can modify it according to. That is why we are here. Some are difficult to measure, some are easy to measure. This is the kind of data sheet you'll be using. You have to tell the sex. Of course, the name, the species is T. senegalensis. Where did you take this call from? From where? You will fill it in here. Locality. Which water? Who is the investigator? Sex. Is it adult? Is it adult? Here. Adult, juvenile, calf. This bone here, will you say that it is adult? This call here. Is it adult or juvenile or calf? This one here. What is your view? Is it from adult? How do you know? How do you know it's adult? Yeah? The futures, the sutures, if they are young, okay. So we have the sutures here. So the more sutures you have, the younger. The less sutures you have, and there's a lot of fusion, the older. So this is likely an adult. It's an adult. So we fill in here the date, the total length, and then we'll look at these ones later. We'll look at how to measure these ones later. Right. So that is the data sheet. And that is the first part of how do you call it? The first part of the unit 3. Then the real part is the measurement. The bones themselves. This shows the vertebrae, the whole series of bones. Sometimes you go there, the animal is dead. You need to collect the bones and line them up if you can. Okay. These are bones. Now, this is a very popular scientist, I need to mention him. World expert on bone work, anatomy of manatees. Dr. Domney. If you look in the literature, he's a very powerful man in terms of manatee anatomy in the US. And we are following his approach. We are adopting his approach for measuring the bones. I told you about the ear bone. Manatee ear bone, very important for aging the animal. That is the ear bone. Normally sections are cut here. Cut sections here, and then the sections are viewed under microscope for aging. Yeah? See? This is the first and easiest part of the manatee skull, which you should be able to measure. And that is what we'll be following this in trying to complete the data sheet. This is the condylobasal length. Condylobasal length. Right? Condylobasal length here. We will try to collect that information from the skull. I don't think it's too difficult to measure that. Some of them are very difficult. So we will go through the list. We'll go through the list of the data sheet. If you go back to the data sheet, the first measurement is the CBL. If you look at the data sheet, you see CBL. That is the condylobasal length. I'm sure you can complete that one. Then you have to measure this distance. So there are a series of measurements which we are going to try hand at. Some of them difficult, some easy. And then we will see which of them we will agree on which of them we want to form as our database. So that everybody working on the Manatee, when you get the skull, you need to measure that one. That is what we will agree on. The series of them, and we agree for this one. Condylobasal, I don't think it's difficult. We can measure that. Some are difficult. So we'll pick up those that are easy, not from a professional point of view, like Dr. Dominic. Those that we can easily measure, we'll measure. And then that will form a database on the Manatee Cranial and Morphometrics. More important are the ratios between one part and another part, which we will look at. So there are series of measurements we'll be going through as exercise. Series of measurements we'll go through as exercise. Some very difficult, some very easy. Thank you. Thank you.
Ya Rasulallah.